Okay, here we see an example of how opposition works for white to prevent black from occupying a critical square and winning by queening the pawn on the third rank. This pawn is on the third rank because we're talking from black's point of view here. So as we've seen in the previous videos, a pawn on the second, third, or fourth rank, its critical square is 2 ranks in front of the pawn. So black is trying to get to its 5th rank, which is actually the 4th rank here. So black needs to proceed to this rank right here. But it's white's turn to act. So if white has the opposition and moves into c3, then white is basically preventing black from occupying a critical square before it pushes the pawn. And so since black is not able to move into its 5th rank, it's going to be a draw. Black moves into d5, white follows. And black has no other move other than a repetitive draw. Black decides to push the pawn, and now it's going to result in a draw, because now black will never be able to occupy a critical square. At this point, white actually has this is a forced move. This is a forced move. White must go here. White must go to c3. Later we'll see that white has other options. But at this point, if white doesn't move into c3, then black will be able to oppose white and win. Let's say, for example, if white moves into c2, okay, then black will seize the opposition against white, and now white will have to turn to the side, either d2 or b2, and it's going to be a win for black, because now black exercises the turning maneuver, and black has a critical square, and it's going to be a win. So this is no good. If white, for example, were to go to d2 would also be a win for black, because black would once again seize the opposition. And this is the only correct move for black. If black moves here, it's once again a draw. If white makes the mistake of moving to d2, then the correct move for black is to move to d4. And now that black has the opposition, white must give ground. And so the best move for white is to go to c2. Black once again moves into c4 and maintains the opposition. Now white must give ground by moving to one of the side files, either d2 or b2, and whichever file white moves to, black is going to move to the other one and control a critical square and win. So this is a mistake on white's end. Again, this is the position that we have. So at this point, the only correct move for white is c3. So this is important. It's important for white to remember that as soon as the pawn is pushed, there's only one correct place for white to go. However, at this point, for example, white has other options. The only, as a matter of fact, white can at this point move to any of the 3 squares over here. White can move to d2, c2, or even b2 and still have a winning game, because black is too far behind the pawn in order to get to any critical square and win. Because black, once again, black needs to control the critical square of d3, or of course any other square on this rank here, in order to win. And black is just too far away. So right now white has a lot of options. This sounds like a weird move, but actually black cannot win, even if white goes here. I just want to show you how it would play out. At this point, I mean, obviously if black pushes the pawn, it'll be captured. But if black goes here, then all white needs to do is move back into c2, and at this point, there's nothing really black can do other than push the pawn or retreat. So, or move to the side, in which case the pawn will be captured. If it moves back, then white will assume the blockade position. So, so at this point, it's also a push. A draw. And like I said, white can move here, for example. If black moves here, then white will just move into opposition d2. And right now, black has to push the pawn, and this is going to result in a draw. And the other option is, at this point, is for white to move into, at this point, is for white to move into D2. Okay, D2. And this is also a draw. Because if black moves to, even though it looks a little risky, and I don't really advise you to try it, because it could mess up things, but it's actually also going to be a draw, only because black's king is still behind the pawn. Black's king is too far away from the square that it needs to occupy in order to have the critical square in front of the pawn. So white basically has a chance of seizing the opposition later instead of just now. So if black goes here, black currently has the opposition, true. However, white moves into C2, and at this point, there's nothing black can do to win. So this would still be a draw. Okay, so once again, let's go back to the starting position. What we have here is an example of, since it's white's turn to act, white will win this game. If it were black's turn to act, black would move into B4, controlling a critical square 2 ranks in front of the pawn, and black will win. But since it's white's turn to act, then it's not enough for black to be in front of the pawn. If the pawn is still on the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th rank, in our case it's on the 3rd rank, then black needs to control one of the critical squares 2 ranks in front of the pawn, and in this case, since white has the opposition, black is unable to advance, and it's a drawn game.